Hello there. You came into this life as an extension, an expression of source energy in the physical dimension. Because of this, it could be said that you are an art piece, a creation of God's. But as an extension of God, you are God, so you are both the creator and the created. And neither the creator or the creation is meant to be suppressed. When you live in a state of openness, you are allowing the art piece of you to be painted across this world. You are not restricting yourself. You are also not restricting Source itself. Because of this, it is by far the more in alignment way to be. And it can be said that walking the spiritual path is walking the path of complete openness. When a child is born, the child has no thoughts of suppressing itself. The child has no secrets from the world. The child does not seclude itself or exclude people from its heart. The child is honest. The child is like this because it is the most natural way to be. The child follows its emotional guidance system up until the point where it is taught not to. And when you follow your emotional guidance system, what you find is that the state of constriction is painful and therefore it is not natural. What you find is that the state of openness feels emotionally good and therefore it is our natural state. We can think of constriction as the opposite of openness. But a whole range of things falls into the category of constriction. We are constricted when we keep secrets. We are constricted when we tone ourselves down in order to be accepted by others. We are constricted when we do things we don't want to do. We're constricted when we close our minds and are no longer open to new ideas and new possibilities for truth. We are constricted when we are not honest. We're constricted when we don't share. We're constricted when we isolate ourselves. We're constricted when we see love in terms of finite quantity, and so we reserve it only for some people and not others. We are constricted when we do not allow ourselves to admit to and go after our needs and our wants. We're constricted when we do not express our emotions. We're constricted when we try to fit ourselves into a life dictated by society instead of carving out a life to fit ourselves. These are just a few examples of thousands of examples of constriction. To live a life of constriction is to not let the light of your eternal being shine through your physical existence. The first thing to suffer is your emotional life. You will start to not enjoy the life you're living. The second thing to suffer is your body. You can't stay in a state of constriction for long because you're preventing the source energy from flowing through your body. The part of the body that perhaps suffers the most from constriction is the heart and lungs. Many of the heart and breathing problems that we experience are ultimately the result of restricting the self. But constriction can also give rise to a whole host of other ailments, such as stomach disorders, acne, allergies, eating disorders, arthritis, baldness, blood pressure problems, bowel problems, yeast infection, varicose veins, cancers and tumors, speech problems, injuries associated with the body and the joints, prostate problems, and ovarian problems, to name a few. After we've been here on the planet for a little while, we begin to feel as if there are consequences for being ourselves and for being open. We begin to fear exposure. And so, the one power that we have is what I call self-containment. We know that it's a choice for us to expose or to not expose ourselves. So most of us exercise our free will by choosing to close ourselves down, by choosing to be invisible. We choose to hide ourselves instead of expose ourselves, and sometimes we hide ourselves from ourselves. This makes us feel as if we are not powerless victims, but it is a decision that will kill us in the end. You came into this life in order to be the full expression of yourself. You are Source playing itself out in a physical body, and each body is a unique expression of Source. Upon coming into this physical dimension, you chose to become that full expression, that unique expression. And so to restrict that expression in any way is to disallow the very purpose for you coming into this dimension in the first place. When we do things like keep secrets, it makes us feel powerful instead of powerless. But it is to be exclusive in a universe which is all-inclusive. More than all-inclusive, it is all one. Your stories are not yours, they are everyone's. Your secrets are not yours, they are everyone's. Your pain is not yours, it is everyone's. Your joy is not yours, it is everyone's. To keep secrets is to not understand the fact that you are everything and everyone. When we are not open and honest and do not share, it makes us feel safe instead of unsafe. As we said before, people think they are safe when they are invisible, but to live your life at the mercy of fear is no kind of life. It is only a half-life. We may fear what others will think of us, or we may fear that what we tell others will be used against us. But I can tell you that if you were comfortable with being yourself fully, you would not care what they think about you. It would not be possible to be embarrassed in the first place if you were not indoctrinated with the idea that there are good ways to be and bad ways to be. People who fear exposing themselves without exception were raised in environments where there was a heavy atmosphere of shame. It would be impossible to be embarrassed if you were not first ashamed of being yourself. And a person does not become ashamed of being themselves unless they're exposed to someone who convinces them that they should be. And as our spiritual practice progresses, it becomes more and more obvious that anything a person could do to us does not compare to the pain of constriction when we impose restriction on our own being. There is an old Chinese poem that explains a very deep spiritual truth. It is that an arrow can only pierce something that resists the arrow. If we were to instead become like water, an arrow shot into the water would not even make a dent. Instead, it would be absorbed into the expanse of the water. When we live in a state of constriction, when we keep secrets, when we live our lives as anything other than ourselves, we are resistant to the very things that we're afraid of, and so they can hurt us. We are resisting the arrow when we're living in a state of closedness instead of openness. If we were to become like water, to live in a state of complete openness, sharing, honesty, the expanse of us would absorb anything that came up against us. Nothing could make a dent. If you are completely open, it's true that you give all your ammunition away. But when you give your ammunition away, it can't be used on you. Some people feel as if being open and sharing oneself with the world completely is a tasteless form of public exhibitionism. The deeper than that, it is a form of narcissism. This is a profoundly out of alignment point of view from source perspective, seeing as how you came into this planet in the first place to uniquely express yourself fully. This is the only way we can achieve self-awareness, is if we are open with ourselves and if we are open to the world. What's more than that, our only way to learn from one another is to express ourselves. But the people who hold this belief are raised in environments where the only socially acceptable way of being was conformity to a social ideal. Social etiquette often calls for extreme measures of self-constriction. But we need to understand that if we have an idea of how someone should behave, we are letting our standards be dictated by someone who came before us, someone who had power over others and whom decided that if other people behaved in a certain way, it would make them feel happier. It is a form of social control that we have bought into and we now reinforce. We need to ask ourselves, who decided what was tasteful and what was tasteless and why? Why is public exhibitionism not okay, especially in a universe where we came to this physical life specifically to be unrestricted expressions of our true selves? Why should we act in a certain way? And who decides what that certain acceptable way to act is? The idea that sharing oneself completely is narcissism is a sad idea at best. You came into this physical dimension, and you are restricted to the one perspective that you call by your name. You will be with you for the rest of your life. This means you are the love of your life. You just don't know it yet. Self-love is not narcissism. Most people do not understand narcissism, and I can promise you I will be doing a video on narcissism coming up soon. But the idea that there is something inherently wrong with being self-focused, self-congratulating, self-celebrating, is not an idea which comes from Source itself. It's an idea that was bred down from human to human. The idea that it's virtuous to forget yourself and that it is selfish to care about yourself and to think highly enough about yourself to be driven to show yourself off to others is an idea that is imposed on us by other people who believe in the virtue of selflessness and who rejected us for who we were. These people believe in humility, a lethal humility. They spent a good deal of time trying to make us believe that it was selfish, and to be selfish was to be bad, and that to be bad was to not deserve love, so our only way to get love was to deny ourselves and restrict ourselves and to become constricted. The idea that you should constrict yourself in any way and not celebrate your own life and not show it off to others is an idea that originates directly from self-hate. The bottom line is to live a life that is in alignment, to live a life where you are able to be healthy, to live a life that you enjoy. Openness is the order of the day. We have a choice at all moments of the day. The choice is to be open or to be closed. This is why one of the most beneficial exercises you can do is to ask yourself throughout the day, how am I being closed right now? How am I constricting myself or letting myself be constricted? And make the necessary changes in favor of openness based on the answer you receive. A state of openness is the real state of freedom. Everything that we do in our lives is a creative expression of our inner selves. Anything you do to constrict yourself, or anyone else, is to restrict the flow of source energy through your body, and you can't live like that for long. It's important that we understand that to commit to a spiritual life and to spiritual practice is to commit to a path of openness. Have a good week.